Does President Trump hate his own supporters? Well, I had an interesting conversation with someone who voted for Trump 3 times. Now, this was not a proud Trump supporter, but someone who reluctantly voted for him 3 times, someone who hates the Democratic Party, but also is not a fan of Trump. And he said that Trump appeals to the lowest common denominator. I thought that was a really interesting statement. He was saying Trump uses basically bumper sticker slogans, quick, snide remarks and stuff like that to garner the support of people who don't tune into politics and policy all that much. And I thought that was a really, really interesting confession, especially for him to admit that he voted for this guy 3 times, but he saw him as the lesser evil, and so that's how he voted. But yeah, we can see that Trump really does not care about appealing to people's intellect at all. He does not care about treating people as intelligent human beings. So it is difficult to say whether or not the president hates his own supporters, but we can clearly see he does not think highly of their intelligence. Think about this stunt that he pulled recently, where he took in several groups of white immigrants from South Africa. This was pure pandering. It was pure red meat to this base who were like, yeah, make America white again, bro. Yeah, he's bringing in white people. And yet he's so adamant about deporting people who are not white. It's like, what is the difference? Why all of a sudden do you want to bring in these white people? Why are you so focused on that? And these people just eat it up. It's like they're red meat. They're just like, yeah, okay, right on. White people. Yeah, bring more white people into this country. They're cool. They got to be because their skin's white. That was what his base thought. And he's got to be thinking, wow, these people are such fools. They'll applaud me if I bring white people into this country. I can do whatever I want to screw them over on any other front, i.e. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, taxes, namely tax cuts for the uber wealthy and tax increases on them. But all I have to do is bring in more white people and they'll feel like I'm representing them well. Just bring in more white people into the country. Like, talk about a giant middle finger to their intellect. And it's like, is this all you people actually care about? Is just, oh, more white people? Bring in more white people in this country? Do you not pay attention to how the so-called big beautiful bill, or as I called it, the big disaster bill, is going to cut your Medicare and your Medicaid and all of these programs that help you? Do you not care about the fact that it's not giving you any tax cuts? It's just giving tax cuts to people who make over $500,000 a year, aka people who are pretty darn well off, people who are probably not going to have to worry about much, $500,000 a year. So he does not think highly of their intellect. There were some reports back during the COVID era, 2020, at least the COVID era during Trump, because part of it was during Biden, but that he was saying he found his supporters disgusting. He didn't like shaking hands with them at his rallies and stuff. And he was just like, ew, no, I don't like interacting with them. Now, he actually is a germaphobe, I've heard. So that's probably not unique to his supporters, that he's just like, yeah, I don't like interacting with people. I don't like physically touching people because it might transfer germs and microbes and might cause me to get sick. But yeah, you have to admit that it's interesting that he says it about his own people, that it's reported at least that he says it about his own people, because his own people do not tend to be very hygienic and do not tend to be very good about taking care of themselves. If you go to Trump rallies, you will see a good number of them are obese. They're not physically fit. So I'm not just saying that as an insult. That's just a fact. So he probably is like, ugh, these people, man. He thinks that. I don't think that. But yeah, he's just repulsed by his own supporters. And he's like, yeah, no, I want their votes. I don't want them. He actually kind of said as much, like, oh yeah, I just want your votes. I don't care about you. He said that once at a rally, and people didn't really report on it all that much. It kind of made a big deal at the time, but like most things that Trump says, like most outrageous things, it kind of just gets swept under the rug. I was also thinking, though, about these cuts to FEMA, these cuts to the federal government, these attempts by President Trump and especially by Elon Musk to totally dismantle any sort of functionality that we have within our federal government. Elon Musk is very big on that, and he's doing it just for the purpose of self-enrichment. It's not really an actual small government principled belief he has. He just wants to cut the government so he can get more money in his pocket, get more money from you. And so he's cutting the government. He's making the government incapable of responding to disasters. And there are these natural disasters happening in some southern states right now, like Kentucky, and the federal government's not able to adequately respond to them. And they're like, Trump, help us out, dude. What the hell? Josh Hawley was on the floor of Congress saying he needs some help, for his home state of Missouri. Missouri, of course, a traditionally red state that has actually elected some Democrats every now and then. And, some of his voters probably they love the idea of Doge. They love the idea of President Trump going after the federal government and of Elon Musk's slash and burn style approach. But they do not consider the ramifications of that. They do not consider that it could screw them over in the future, in the long run, in the short run, whatever, you name it. It might feel good in the moment. It might feel good and noble to cut the federal government, cut the so-called corruption, the waste, the fraud, the abuse, as Elon Musk calls it. But in the short term and the long term, it can end up screwing them over really badly. And that is one of those areas in which I'm like, okay, I don't know that President Trump hates his own supporters, but I can see that President Trump does not care about his own supporters. And it's people like me who get out here every day and stand up for the Constitution, everyone's constitutional rights, and stand up for a functioning federal government who actually care about people. And it's people like me, my worldview, that would help the country a lot. And President Trump puts a giant middle finger up to that and says, well, no, actually, we need to just deregulate everything. We need to burn it all to the ground because my grift is more important. His grift is the most important thing to him, not so much his supporters. I'm sure that he really does enjoy having a group of loyal supporters who are like, yeah, he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, and I would still cast my vote for him proudly. I'm sure he really enjoys that, and I'm sure it feels very cool. Not many politicians have been able to say they have supporters like that, but he can. He can. You know, he has what George W. Bush never had, or Reagan even. Reagan was very, very idolized, but I think that if he shot someone on Fifth Avenue, he would go to prison and everyone would be like, screw this guy, he sucks, all the Republicans who voted for him. But Trump is different. Trump has that just magnetic power where he can be really divisive, where everyone else is like, whoa, okay, this guy does not pass the smell test. He's a ridiculous human being. As Mitt Romney astutely pointed out in 2016 on the campaign trail, Mitt Romney endorsed Ted Cruz, but Mitt Romney pointed out, hey, Mr. Trump is a con man and a fraud. He's a con man and a fraud. He didn't say grifter, but I would add grifter in there too. I would say, very well said, Mitt Romney. I would add grifter. He's a grifter. He doesn't care about any sort of principles. It's just deregulate, bully people with frivolous lawsuits, bully people by deporting them. And yeah, just, oh, you know, my supporters, I'll coast on my supporters. I'll continuously have a 40% approval rating because there's a segment of the country that is unfortunately, lost in the sauce, that is lost in this obsession with supporting me no matter what. That, well, you know, I have an R next to my name, I piss off leftists and that's cool. So they just support me. They just support me no matter what. And he's got a lock on them. He does the most outrageous things that 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago would have had a president sitting at a 3% approval rating or something, 6%, something abysmal like that. But yet he gets to have a 30 or 40% approval rating. It's the ultimate flex on his part. So do I think that he hates his own supporters? Probably not, but he doesn't care about them at all. And he doesn't care about them in a way that I think reflects his own hatred of the rest of the population, of anyone who doesn't support him. So you've got this percentage of the population that he takes advantage of and that he doesn't care about, but that he recognizes they have some value, you know. They keep his approval rating looking not bad. And then he hates the rest of the population, and he says to the group that he doesn't hate, but that he doesn't care about at all, hey, I hate these people. We need to isolate and marginalize them. We need to tell them they suck, so get behind me. That's what he does. That is his tactic, the divide and conquer tactic. Or I should say it's even worse than divide and conquer. It's very, very toxic. It's like, hey, minority of the population, line up behind me. He knows it's a minority, but he'll also pretend it's a majority. He'll say he won the election by even more than he actually did. He will say that he won a mandate, just a brazen lie to everyone's face. I won an electoral mandate, man. You know, I get to do whatever I want. He's out there saying he doesn't know whether or not he has to enforce the Constitution. He's out there quoting Napoleon Bonaparte, that French general, saying, he who saves his country violates no law. I'm saving my country, duh, so I'm not breaking the law. Is he delusional enough to believe this? Or is he that much of a liar? That's the question. But either way, we can see that this segment of the population that supports him, that went out and voted for him, he doesn't care about them at all. And that's not to say that Democrats care about their own voters either. They definitely put the middle finger up to their own voters at times, and they definitely act very questionable. But the way President Trump acts, it's so much more deliberate. It's so much more toxic. I don't care about you folks at all. You folks suck, but please line up behind me because we're going to piss off the people who I actually hate and who you hate. You will line up behind me. I hate them. You hate them. Let's go. Let's ruin the whole country just to piss them off. Let's ruin the whole country. Let's take your health care away. Let's raise taxes on my rich buddies just to piss them off. That is his strategy. That is his insidious strategy. and it took people a long time to realize that. It did. It took me a long time. I thought a lot about what he did in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, how some of it, he took some good actions every once in a while. He made some good moves. He made some moves which arguably were in the interest of American workers, like pulling the United States out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was a dubious trade deal at best. He said, we're getting out of that. I'm like, okay, that sounds like good judgment. Probably not a good idea to be in that. But then these tariffs come around and he's just like, yeah, no, my supporters will get behind this. My supposedly pro-free market supporters will get behind this. And there are some free-thinking conservatives like Ben Shapiro who are like, no, I don't support this. But yeah, we watched in horror as these Americans who formerly supported free trade, or Americans who don't believe in anything, but they just believe whatever Trump tells them, lined up behind him and said, short-term pains for long-term gain. Total cultish cope. CC, cultish cope. They are in a cult and they are coping with the disaster that he is inflicting upon our country. He hates a majority of the country, and the people he doesn't hate are the people he's taking advantage of. But he doesn't care about them either. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think President Trump hates his own supporters? Like, comment, or subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the More the Merrier, and I look forward to speaking to you in my next video.